This is the Dungeons and Lasers Torture Chambers Fantasy Room. This dungeon looks friendly. Back before Dungeons and Dragons, when we thought about dungeons, we usually thought of it as a place to throw people in and manacle them to the wall because they did something nasty bad to the king, instead of being a labyrinth of basically goblins and treasure chests to be looted and such. So Dungeons and Lasers brings back those wonderful room in its torture chambers. And you can see from this cover over here, you have the skeletons manacled to the wall. You have the implements of torture. And you have the sort of ornate archway to get into the room. The smaller tiles have a sewer with a gateway, and the larger ones have this sort of fancy wooden floor. We'll see that bit more closely. When you actually look at the sprue you're going to get in the box, even though it's 130 parts, you get 6 double-sided walls, 3 long double-sided walls, 3 doorways, 3 long floor tiles, and 3 floor tiles. It sort of follows the standard format for the Dungeon and Lasers rooms, which has 3 of these sprues, so you get 3 of the long pieces, 3 of the large walls, 3 of the small floors, 3 arches, some clips, and 3 times 2, 6 of the shorter walls. This sprue is from the Hall of Heroes set. And each of the room sets will come with 1, 2, 3 sprues, plus the set of connectors. I've painted up the dungeon, and I've sort of brought it to tabletop level. And you can see over here where when you use all the pieces, you'll have a 3x2 area, and you can use it and have a 1x3 quarter, for example. And you can see over here, here's one archway, an archway into the main room, and a third one as the rest of the corridor. All the rest of the pieces over here are from the first stretch goal. And you can see, and I haven't even painted all of them, but I found quite a few that are just perfect for the torture room. You have the coffin, you have a couple of skulls, you have the stockade, so maybe some traps to torture people on, another large random skull, some scrolls, weapon rack, some treasure chests and barrels, a few pillars, and a light. So you can see over here, for example, here's some manacled skeleton. Over here we have some torture devices, another one on the wall, and one of the archways. The larger walls will have 2 skeletons on the wall, or you'll have 2 coffins on the other side. Let's actually start taking it apart. So as we can see, here's one of the archways. This is a lot of bones on one side and a lot of bones on the other. Here is one of the smaller walls with a skeleton chained to the wall, and then the other side, the various implements. And one of the long wall pieces. Again, here you can see the 2 coffins, and on the other side, some more skeletons chained to the walls. And finally, over here, you can see one of the smaller tiles with the sewage, and one of the longer ones that are made of wood and has these 1, 2, 3 little skulls. So when painting them, I use the rather simple technique of using a primer, base coats, wash, and then various touching up. The primer, you can use a flat black spray. The gray and black paints, I just used a variety of craft paints. The skeletons, I actually used if you can read the word, this is khaki. And I had a variety of brown paints. It's usually good to experiment because sometimes the brown paints are too saturated, sometimes they're too orange or such. And you, for the manacles and black parts, I would actually paint them black and then do a little bit of highlighting dry brush with a gray. Some tips when doing the painting and such is that you're going to want to use the makeup brushes from Amazon. These are really good and really inexpensive in order to do dry brushing, base painting for terrain. I don't use them on my actual miniatures, but when you have like a few hundred pieces of terrain, these will still work pretty well. And you can see how I started off with the darker gray over here, then the lighter gray here. I then did a wash afterwards, and the trick to doing the wash is to put a very thin layer of water on the entire tile and then wash such that it goes into the crevices and does not pool onto the surface. Now when you have several hundred pieces, you want to make your own wash and do a search on Les Burley. He's known on the internet for making a wash that's inexpensive to make. You can make a black one for dark, and you can also make brown washes as well. So that's pretty much it that I wanted to show you for the torture chambers. It's one of the rooms available in your the Kickstarter that you can choose, and I highly recommend it if you have a despotic king who wants to throw your adventurers into the dungeon.